When my future mother-in-law called me too big to be a real mom, that was just the beginning. The invitation arrived on a Tuesday, cream-colored envelope with gold embossing that screamed Eleanor Thompson before I even saw the return address. My mother-in-law-to-be had never sent anything without her personal touch. Expensive, traditional, and somehow still managing to make me feel inadequate. "It's here," I called to Ryan, who was in the shower. Our apartment in Chicago was small but cozy, filled with mismatched furniture we'd collected over our 4 years together. Nothing matched, but everything had a story. Eleanor would hate it. Ryan emerged from the bathroom, towel around his waist, water dripping from his dark hair. "Mom's Thanksgiving invitation?" I nodded, sliding my finger under the seal. "Right on schedule. 2 months in advance, so we have plenty of time to dread it." He laughed, but there was tension in it. "Come on, Liv. It won't be that bad this year." I shot him a look. Last Thanksgiving, his mother had served me a plate with half the portions everyone else received, then asked loudly if I was finally on a diet. The Christmas before that, she'd given me a gift certificate for a gym membership while everyone else received thoughtful, personal presents. Before we go further, don't forget to like this story, hit subscribe, and tap the bell so you don't miss what happens next. The invitation was heavy cardstock, with a family photo of the Thompsons from last summer's Martha's Vineyard vacation. Eleanor and Richard Thompson standing proudly with their 3 children, Ryan, his perfect sister Melissa with her husband and 2 biological children, and his younger brother Ethan with his equally perfect girlfriend Claire. And there was a handwritten note. "Olivia and Ryan, we're so looking forward to having everyone home for Thanksgiving this year. It's been too long since the whole family was together. Your father and I have some exciting news to share. Also, Melissa's friend Amber will be joining us. She just moved back to Boston after her divorce. You might remember her from high school, Ryan, the pretty tennis player? Love, Eleanor." I handed the invitation to Ryan without comment. I watched his face as he read it, saw the slight furrow in his brow. "She's matchmaking again," I said flatly. "Your mom still thinks we're going to break up, even though we're literally engaged." Ryan sighed, running a hand through his wet hair. "Amber Henderson was 3 years behind me in school. I barely knew her." "That's not the point, and you know it." Ryan sat beside me on our worn leather couch, taking my hands in his. At 32, he had the same strong jawline as his father, but softer eyes. Kind eyes that had first drawn me to him at our mutual friend's gallery opening. "Liv, she's just being Mom. She doesn't know how to stop meddling. The engagement is still new to her. We've been engaged for 7 months, Ryan." "I know. And in another 5, we'll be married, and she'll have to accept it." He kissed my forehead. "She'll come around when we give her grandkids." My stomach twisted. This was the conversation I'd been avoiding. We had an appointment next week with an adoption agency, the first step in what would likely be a long journey. Ryan and I had talked about adoption since our 3rd date. His cousin was adopted, and I'd always known I didn't want to have biological children. It felt right for both of us. But we hadn't told our families yet. My parents would be disappointed but supportive. Eleanor and Richard Thompson, with their dynasty of biological perfection? I wasn't so sure. About that, I began carefully. "I think we should tell them over Thanksgiving. About the adoption plans." Ryan's body tensed beside me. All at once. Both our families. What invited my parents to join the Thompson Thanksgiving this year? Eleanor's begrudging attempt at blending families before the wedding. My parents, Jim and Susan Miller, were middle-class Midwesterners from Columbus who owned a small hardware store. They were as different from the old-money Boston Thompsons as I was. Like ripping off a Band-Aid, I nodded. "Everyone at once, so no one feels left out or like they got second-tier information." Ryan was quiet for a long moment. "You're right. But let's be strategic about it. Not during the actual dinner. Maybe Friday morning, when everyone's relaxed." I leaned into him, breathing in his clean shower scent. "Okay. Friday it is." I paused. "Should we tell them about the appointment next week?" "Let's see how the general announcement goes first," he said, a note of caution in his voice that made me uneasy. My phone buzzed with a text. It was my best friend Zoe. Did the annual Thompson summons arrive? What fresh hell awaits this year? I typed back quickly, matchmaking attempt number 437. Ryan's high school crush will be there. Zoe responded immediately. She never gives up, does she? Want me on standby for emergency extraction? I smiled for the first time since seeing the invitation. Always. Ryan was watching me. Zoe? My emotional support human, I confirmed. He kissed the top of my head. I'm going to call Mom and confirm we're coming. Both of us. And your parents. As he went to get his phone, I stared at the invitation again. Eleanor's perfect cursive. The perfect family photo. Everyone thin, polished, belonging. Then I looked down at my size 16 body, at the small sapphire engagement ring that had been Ryan's grandmother's, at our mismatched apartment that told the story of two people who chose each other despite their differences. 5 days at the Thompson family estate in Boston. 5 days of Eleanor's subtle and not-so-subtle digs. 5 days of navigating family politics before dropping our adoption bombshell. What could possibly go wrong? Actually, don't answer that. Have you ever dreaded a family gathering like this? When you just know someone is going to make you feel awful about yourself? Trust me, it gets worse from here. The Thompson estate in Boston looked exactly how you'd expect. Colonial bricks, black shutters, and a lawn so perfectly manicured it looked fake. The kind of house that had a name, Wickham Hill, not a number. The kind of house where the walls whispered expectations. Here we go, I muttered as we stepped out of the Uber. Ryan squeezed my hand. 5 days, he whispered. We can survive 5 days. I wasn't so sure. Eleanor opened the front door before we even rang the bell. She was dressed in beige and pearls, not a wrinkle in sight. Ryan, she said with a smile that tightened when she turned to me. Olivia, you look festive. I was wearing a burgundy sweater dress. Comfortable, yes. Festive? Not especially. Thanks, I said, trying to keep my voice neutral. Thanks for having us. She kissed Ryan's cheek, then looked down at my suitcase. That's quite a bag. Planning to stay a while? I forced a smile. Just the 5 days you invited us for. Have you ever walked into someone's home and felt like the floor was judging you? That was Wickham Hill. Inside, the house smelled like cinnamon and polished wood. I heard laughter coming from the kitchen, probably Melissa and her perfect family. Your room is at the end of the hallway, Eleanor said. I made sure the bed was extra firm. I read somewhere that's better for heavier frames. I blinked. Ryan cleared his throat. Thanks, Mom. I let it go. For now. We walked into the kitchen, and there they were, Melissa, in a sweater that probably cost more than my rent, her 2 golden children, and her husband Brian, a finance guy who called everyone buddy. Ethan was pouring wine, and Claire, his girlfriend, greeted us with that fake warmth women reserve for people they know their boyfriend's mother hates. Liv, Melissa said, pulling me into a quick hug. You look so cozy. There it was again, that word. She turned to Ryan. You remember Amber, right? My stomach dropped. From the corner of the kitchen, a blonde woman with gym commercial teeth looked up and waved. Hi, Ryan. He blinked. Wow, Amber Henderson. Been a while. And there it was. The setup. Right in front of me. Eleanor, behind him, said brightly, Isn't it funny how time works? You two were in high school at the same time. And now, look at you. Both single again. I snapped. We're engaged, I said flatly. Still. Amber flushed. Oh, I didn't mean. Ryan grabbed my hand. Yeah, engaged. Getting married in 5 months, remember? Eleanor waved her hand. Of course. It's just nice to reconnect with old friends. Dinner that night was a masterpiece of subtle warfare. Turkey, mashed potatoes, and snide remarks served with cranberry sauce. Olivia, Eleanor said, passing me the bread basket. Would you like more rolls? Or have you hit your carb count for today? I smiled sweetly. I'll take 2. I'm eating for myself, not public opinion. Melissa coughed into her wine glass. Amber looked down at her plate. Later, as we all sat around the fireplace digesting, Eleanor turned the conversation to the next generation. We're so proud of Melissa and Brian, she said. 2 beautiful children, both so bright. And Claire, you and Ethan will get there soon, won't you? Claire beamed. We're not trying yet, but it's on the radar. Eleanor nodded, then turned her gaze on me. And you, Olivia? Any plans to start a family? I could feel the heat rise in my chest. Ryan opened his mouth, but I beat him to it. Actually, yes. We're starting the adoption process next week. Silence. Eleanor blinked. Adoption. I nodded. We've always wanted to adopt. Her lips twitched. Well, that's unexpected. Melissa chimed in. That's wonderful, Liv. But Eleanor wasn't done. You know, some people adopt because they can't have their own children. Is that the case here? I stared at her. No, I said. We just believe that love doesn't require biology. A child doesn't need to come from your body to be your family. Eleanor tilted her head. Of course. I just meant, there's something special about seeing yourself and your children. Don't you think? She looked at me pointedly. At my body. At what she clearly thought didn't deserve to be replicated. I stood up. Excuse me, I said. I'm going to get some air. Ryan followed me onto the porch. Liv, I'm sorry. She humiliated me, I snapped. She looked at me and basically said I'm not good enough to be a mom. He looked down. I'll talk to her. No, I said. I will. Tomorrow. But Ryan? If you don't stand with me when I do, then maybe we shouldn't be planning a wedding at all. His eyes shot up. You don't mean that. I mean every word. So here's a question, folks. If your future mother-in-law insulted your body, your values, and your future child, would you sit there and take it? Or would you confront her, even if it meant risking everything? Because I don't hold back. Let me know in the comments. What would you do? And have you ever had a family member try to subtly destroy your confidence? Let's talk. Because it's about to get real. I didn't sleep that night. I laid in bed staring at the ceiling while Ryan snored softly beside me, and all I could hear was Eleanor's voice. Is that the case here? There's something special about seeing yourself and your children. The way her eyes scanned my body like I was a damaged appliance someone forgot to return. At 6:42 a.m., I gave up on sleep. I slipped out of bed, pulled on a sweatshirt, and padded to the kitchen in my socks. I needed coffee and confrontation. In that order. But guess who was already there? Eleanor, in a silk robe and full makeup, sipping tea like she hadn't emotionally sucker-punched me the night before. Good morning, she said, eyes glinting over the rim of her cup. You're up early. Couldn't sleep. I poured myself coffee, heavy on the caffeine, light on the fake politeness. She set her cup down delicately. I hope I didn't say anything to upset you last night. Conversations around children can be sensitive. Oh, Eleanor. Buckle up. You didn't upset me, I said calmly. You disgusted me. Her eyes widened, just a flicker. Excuse me. I leaned on the counter across from her. You didn't ask me about the adoption because you care about our future child. You asked because you wanted to remind me that I'm not thin enough, or rich enough, or genetically polished enough to join your precious family tree. That's a gross mischaracterization, she said tightly. You called adoption unexpected, like I said we were adopting a raccoon. Then you looked at me like biology was the only way to produce a real heir. Her lips pressed into a thin line. You're reading into things. No, I'm just finally reading them out loud. She stood, smoothing the front of her robe. You're very defensive. And you're very judgmental, I shot back. But at least I'm honest about it. I never said you weren't worthy of being a mother. Didn't have to. You looked at my stomach when you said it. She actually scoffed. I don't recall doing that. Well, I do. And so does Ryan. And probably everyone else in that room. She went quiet, not because she agreed, but because she was calculating her next chess move. Then she tried to smile. You know, Olivia, I just want what's best for Ryan. No, Eleanor. You want what's most comfortable for you. She didn't deny it. Instead, she took another sip of her tea, looking smug. And this whole adoption idea, does Ryan truly want that? Or is it your idea? Oh no. I walked slowly to the island, set down my coffee, and looked her dead in the eye. Ryan and I decided that together. But let's say for a second that it was my idea. What exactly are you implying? I'm not implying anything, she said coolly. I'm just making sure my son isn't being swept into decisions he'll regret later. I laughed. Right. Because a skinny, blonde legacy baby is what he should have, right? Someone with Melissa's bone structure and Claire's Pinterest board uterus. Her eyes narrowed. You're being unnecessarily hostile. And you've been strategically cruel for years. The kitchen fell into silence. No clinking utensils. No footsteps upstairs. Just me, standing across from this perfectly dressed woman who had spent every holiday, every dinner, every damn family photo, making sure I knew exactly where I ranked in her imaginary caste system. I'm not going to beg for a place at your table anymore, I said. I'm not going to shrink myself, literally or emotionally, to make you comfortable. You're not exactly easy to love, Olivia. My voice shook, just for a second, before I gathered it back like a blade. And you're impossible to respect. We stood there, breathing through the tension, and I swear, I felt the house shift. She picked up her tea again. Well, I suppose we've said what needed to be said. Not quite, I said. We're announcing the adoption officially tomorrow. And I will not have you say one word, not a whisper, not a raised eyebrow in front of our families. She said nothing. So I kept going. Because if you do, Eleanor, I will stand up. In the middle of your curated Thanksgiving brunch. And I will tell everyone what you said. About my weight. About our child. About everything. Her mouth opened, then closed. Do we understand each other? I asked. After a beat, she nodded once. Good. And with that, I picked up my coffee and walked out, leaving Eleanor Montgomery standing in her designer slippers, tasting her own medicine for the first time. Have you ever had to stand up to someone who makes you feel small on purpose? Ever gotten so tired of someone's cruelty that the only thing left was to burn the bridge and walk away stronger? Because next, we tell the family. And let's just say, Eleanor's poker face doesn't last long. Thanksgiving morning at Wickham Hill was chaos in a cable knit sweater. Melissa had her kids doing choreographed TikToks in the foyer. Claire was arranging eucalyptus sprigs in a vase like it was the final round of a lifestyle influencer challenge, and Eleanor was calmly directing the staff like she was the hostess of a royal banquet, not a woman who'd gotten emotionally wrecked in her own kitchen 24 hours ago. She didn't say a word to me that morning. Not a snide comment. Not a compliment with teeth in it. Not even a look. Which, honestly, felt more suspicious than anything. Ryan leaned over during breakfast and whispered, "Do you think she's going to behave?" I sipped my coffee and muttered, "Do you think turkeys enjoy Thanksgiving?" He winced. By noon, the dining room table looked like a magazine cover. Crystal glassware, monogrammed napkins, plates so pristine I was afraid to breathe on them. Everyone took their seats, 20 people, mostly family, with a few of Eleanor's society friends and Melissa's photographer/vision board coach friend. My parents, Jim and Susan, sat to my left. They were clearly uncomfortable but too polite to say anything. Dad looked like he wanted to disappear into his flannel shirt. I was nervous, too, not because I was ashamed, but because I knew what was coming. And I was ready. Eleanor stood at the head of the table and tapped her crystal glass with a fork. "Before we begin, Richard and I just want to say how grateful we are to have everyone under one roof again. Family is everything, our legacy, our roots." She looked right at me when she said that. Subtle as a brick through a window. Ryan cleared his throat and stood. "Actually, we wanted to say something too." Eleanor blinked. "Oh." I stood beside him, my hand shaking just slightly under the tablecloth. "We're really happy to be here," I began. "It means a lot to share this with all of you." Ryan continued, "And we're excited to share some news. Olivia and I have started the adoption process." There was a beat of silence. Then a chorus of reactions. Melissa gasped, "That's amazing." Claire clapped softly. "Congratulations." Richard said, "Well, that's unexpected, but good for you too." Jessica, bless her, actually teared up. But then Eleanor spoke. "That's such a generous thing to do." And it was the way she said generous, like we were sponsoring a child overseas, not building a family, that made the whole room shift. "Generous," I said, my voice louder than I meant. She smiled. "I just mean, it's a very noble decision. Taking in a child who doesn't share your blood. It's charitable." You could have heard a pin drop. My mom put down her fork. My dad narrowed his eyes. Ryan stared at her like she'd slapped him. But I stood up. Literally. I stood at the table, heart pounding, voice steady. "Let me be perfectly clear. This is not charity. This is not some noble sacrifice. We are not taking in anyone. We are becoming parents the same way anyone else does. With love, commitment, and a terrifying amount of paperwork." I turned to the table, locking eyes with everyone. Our child, whoever they are, will be ours. No asterisks. No footnotes. No whispered comments about real families. If anyone here has a problem with that, you can leave now. No one moved. But Eleanor's smile cracked just slightly. She started to speak again, but Ryan finally found his voice. "Mom," he said. "Don't." She blinked at him. "I love you," he continued. "But if you keep talking, I swear to God, you'll never meet our child. Ever." Her mouth opened, then shut. For once. After that, dinner was quiet. Everyone ate a little more carefully. Conversations tiptoed around us. But you know what? I felt amazing. I felt like I had just taken back a piece of myself she'd been slowly chipping away at for years. After dinner, I found my dad on the porch, sipping cider. He looked at me and smiled. "Proud of you, kid." "Thanks, Dad." He paused. "Your mother wanted to say something too, but she thought it might make things worse. I'm guessing she wanted to swing the gravy boat at Eleanor's head." He grinned. "Something like that." Inside, Ryan was helping clear plates while Melissa kept glancing over at me. Finally, she pulled me aside. "I just want to say, good for you. That was. I mean, no one ever stands up to her." I smiled. "Maybe that's been the problem. You ever speak your truth and realize, for the first time, how many people were silently waiting for someone else to do it?" That was today. And now? Now we move forward. But something tells me Eleanor's not done yet. Something about the way she whispered to Amber during dessert. I should have known Thanksgiving wasn't the finale. It was the intermission. You ever see someone's face when they realize the performance didn't land? That was Eleanor's expression after our adoption announcement. She looked like a debutante whose tiara just cracked. But she wasn't done. Not by a long shot. Because the next day, I found out what she'd really been up to behind the scenes. And it was worse than anything I could have imagined. It started with a whisper. Literally. As we were cleaning up after dessert, apple pie, coffee, and the awkward sound of 20 people trying to pretend yesterday didn't happen, I caught Amber and Eleanor in the hallway. Amber was clutching her purse like it was a lifeline. Eleanor was speaking low, urgent. I told you it was a simple offer, she hissed. No one has to know. Amber glanced over her shoulder and spotted me. She froze. Oh, Olivia. I was just, leaving. I offered. Eleanor turned, her mask snapping back on. We were just talking about the wedding plans, she said smoothly. I nodded. Of course. Then I smiled. But in my head, every alarm was screaming. That night, I pulled Ryan aside. We were in his childhood bedroom, surrounded by Harvard banners and old baseball trophies. Everything about his upbringing screaming expectation. I think your mom tried to bribe Amber. He blinked. What? I overheard them talking. Eleanor was pushing something. Amber looked like she wanted to melt into the wall. He rubbed his face. I swear, if she did, I want to talk to Amber. Liv, no. I'm not doing this again. I'm not waiting for your mom to explode my life in slow motion. I'm confronting it head on. He didn't argue, because deep down, I think he already knew. The next morning, I found Amber outside with her suitcase. Her Uber had just pulled up. She looked startled when she saw me coming down the porch steps. Hey, I said casually. Mind if I walk you to the car? She hesitated. Sure. We walked in silence for a second. Then I turned to her. I know she offered you something. She flinched. What, who? Eleanor? I said flatly. Yesterday. The whispering. The look on your face. Amber looked down. It's not what you think. So she didn't offer you money to try and break us up? Amber's face turned red. It wasn't money exactly. I stopped walking. Amber sighed. It was a consulting job. Some vague position at her friend's foundation in New York. 6 months. Very well paid. She said it would be a great way to reconnect with Ryan while he reevaluates things. My stomach dropped. Did you take it? No, she said quickly. God, no. I felt sick just listening to her. I told her I wasn't interested and that she was insane. I searched her face. And to her credit, she looked genuinely ashamed. She said Ryan and I were never going to work, she added quietly. That he needed someone who could represent the family with grace. Someone who wasn't so, she stopped. I finished it for her. Someone who wasn't so much. Amber winced. She's awful, Liv. I'm sorry. I swear, I didn't come here with any intention, I believe you, I said. But you should know, she's going to come after me harder now. Amber nodded. She thinks you embarrassed her. No, I said. I think I scared her. Back inside, I told Ryan everything. He sat in silence, then stood abruptly and walked out of the room. 10 minutes later, I heard shouting. Eleanor's voice. I was protecting you. No, you were protecting yourself, Mom. She isn't right for this family. She's exactly what this family needs. You'll regret this. The only thing I regret is not seeing through you sooner. Then silence. A door slammed. And when Ryan returned, his face was hard. She's not coming to the wedding. Later, Eleanor tried to corner me in the hallway. She looked rattled, her hair slightly out of place for the first time in memory. You've turned him against me. No, I said. You did that all on your own. She swallowed. I just wanted what was best for him. No, you wanted what was best for you. And in the process, you lost your son. She tried to speak again, but I walked past her. That night, Ryan and I sat on the floor of our bedroom, surrounded by our half-packed suitcases. I meant what I said, he told me. She's not invited. I nodded. It's not about punishing her. It's about protecting our future. Exactly. We clinked mugs of cocoa. And for the first time in months, we felt like a team again. You ever realize that family isn't about DNA? That sometimes, the people who raised you are the ones who hurt you the most? Eleanor might have given Ryan life, but she nearly destroyed everything good in it. So now I want to ask you, have you ever had someone try to sabotage your relationship from the inside? How did you handle it? Would you cut them off? Or keep the peace and let them stay? Drop your thoughts in the comments, and if you've ever had a mother-in-law from hell moment, I want to hear it. Eleanor is going to try one last stunt, and it might just backfire harder than anything she's ever done before. They say every wedding has at least one moment of chaos. A missing shoe, a late florist, a kid screaming during the vows. Mine had all of those. But it also had one last, desperate act of sabotage from the woman who had tried, and failed, to destroy my future. And on the day I married her son, she tried to bring it all down with one final lie. We decided to keep the wedding small. 35 people. Close friends, chosen family, a few coworkers. No extended Thompsons. No one on Eleanor's curated must-have list. And absolutely, positively, no Eleanor. Ryan had made that call firmly, publicly, and we stood by it. But deep down, I knew she wouldn't go quietly. Eleanor wasn't the type to bow out of anything, especially not the wedding she assumed would be her red carpet moment. And sure enough, 2 days before the ceremony, we got the call. Ryan answered on speakerphone. It was Melissa. I think Mom's planning something. She's been hinting at delivering a message on the big day. Said she's going to expose a secret. I frowned. What kind of secret? She wouldn't say. But she's smug. Like she thinks she's got ammo. Ryan and I looked at each other. She's bluffing, I said. Maybe, Melissa replied. But you should be ready. Just in case. The wedding was held at a lakeside in Vermont. Golden leaves, twinkle lights, and crisp air that made everyone's cheeks a little pink. I wore a satin dress with long sleeves and no corset. I wanted to breathe at my wedding. Ryan wore navy. No tie. Just confidence. The ceremony was supposed to start at 4 p.m. At 3:48, I got a text from Zoe, who was stationed near the entrance with a headset and a don't mess with the bride attitude. Zoe, she's here. Wearing white. And she brought someone. Me. Who? Zoe? Amber. I almost laughed. Almost. Instead, I turned to Ryan, who was in the dressing suite across the hall. She showed up. His jaw clenched. With Amber. He took a breath. Do you want me to ask her to leave? No, I said. I've got it. I walked down the back hallway in my wedding gown, heels clicking like gunshots. There she was, standing in the garden walkway like she owned it. White dress, pearls, a little veil like it was her vow renewal. Amber stood behind her looking like she regretted every decision that had led her to this moment. Eleanor, I said. She turned, all faux surprise. Olivia, you look sturdy. There it was. The final poke. I heard you brought a +1, I said. She smiled. Just wanted to give Ryan one last chance to choose wisely. I blinked, then laughed. Not politely, not nervously. I full-on laughed in her face. Oh, Eleanor, I said. You're still under the impression that this is your story. She narrowed her eyes. You have no idea the mistake you're making. No, I said. You don't. Because for all your control and planning and wealth, you never figured out the one thing I've always known. I stepped forward. That love built on manipulation isn't love. And respect isn't earned through fear. She opened her mouth. I raised my hand. And by the way, I am a mother already, whether the paperwork's finalized or not. Because motherhood isn't about blood or biology. It's about choosing someone every day and showing up for them. She looked like she'd swallowed glass. Amber tried to quietly slink away. Take her with you, I added. And don't come back. Because this time, you don't get a seat. You get a story. When you don't control anymore. Then I turned around and walked back to my wedding. We got married under a canopy of golden trees. Zoe gave me away. Ryan cried. And when we kissed, it wasn't just a ceremony, it was a declaration. We survived her. After the cake was cut, after the dancing, after the sparkler send-off, I got one more message. An email. From Eleanor. Subject line, congratulations. You win. The body was blank. She was right. But it wasn't about winning. It was about finally living without someone trying to pull the rug out from under me every 5 minutes. It was about building a family that looked different, but felt more real than anything she ever offered. So now I want to ask you, if someone tried to ruin your wedding, would you still walk down that aisle? Would you confront them? Cut them off? Forgive them? Or would you do what I did and finally choose yourself? Tell me in the comments. And if you've ever had a family disaster explode at your wedding, share it. Someone out there needs to hear they're not alone. Because sometimes, blood isn't thicker. Sometimes, it just stains the dress.